I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another request. This is for Jordan. If anyone wants to request pretty much any type of video, review, re-review, topic, reaction, what have you, you can request it either directly sending it to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now this is for... He wanted me to comment on a certain episode of The Simpsons called The Principal and the Pauper. Now... Before I get into my thoughts, what the episode is, it was around season 9 when it came out, and watching the episode again, I just didn't think it was that funny. There was really not much jokes that worked. The character, the principal, Bart and Lisa, granted he's a side character. I can't think of anyone who said, oh, Principal Skinner is my favorite character. But when you get into 9 seasons at this point, it makes sense why they would, okay, focus on this minor character and then build him up. Same with Apu, same with all these other characters that litter the city of Springfield. Almost said Springwood, but that's another person there, Freddy Krueger. And the jokes, I mean... The story, Skinner has a celebration because he's been there for 20-some years. During the party, another man comes in. He says he's the real Skinner, and you find out that the Skinner you've been following for 9 years is a fake, is an imposter. And so Martin Sheen becomes who voices that character. He becomes the Skinner, but the town doesn't really like him. They like the way things were. The Skinner we've been following for 9 years, he quits his job as principal. The jokes are, for example, he tries to get in front of a nudie shop with a sign, and he's trying to read it verbatim, but he doesn't know how to do it right. The principal's mom doesn't like the new Skinner because he won't do what she tells him to do. I'm trying to really think what jokes were actually in this episode. Not a whole lot. Bart makes some food with some dog food with little flags in it for Skinner's party, and Homer eats them. He doesn't think anything of it. This is when you get more into Homer's stupidity, because as the years go, he's got to get dumber and dumber and dumber for jokes. To the point he would forget his own fucking name, and that doesn't happen in this episode, but by the end of the episode, the town wants things the way they were, so they run Martin Sheen out of town, and the judge comes in and goes, from then on, you're Principal Skinner, and no one will ever bring this up, and everything will be back to normal. And one of the writers, Tim Keeler, mentions how, well, Skinner was a minor character. We want to do something different with him. And we want to tell a story about a town that gets upset when someone comes in and says this is not really the way things are. And lo and behold, the people who got upset, they want the things the way they are. So the people who get upset, they're upset about a story that's kind of talking about themselves. I'm like, Tim Keeler, I kind of get what you mean, but I don't agree. Because yeah, I get what he says. Skinner is a minor character. Skinner is a character. It's not like people, like I said, would put him in their top favorite characters. Maybe for some it is. Just the thing with The Simpsons, what I think some of the people who wrote or some of the people who made the show don't realize, at least at this time, there were very huge number of devoted fans of the show that would tune in each week, and they would learn more about all the not only main characters but the side characters. And the thing is, when you look at the first couple seasons of the show, it actually seemed as if they wanted to have some type of continuity, at least to a point, for a cartoon. At the very least, if you watch the first 2 or 3 seasons, it seems that their direction of this cartoon was that they wanted to make a cartoon that I wouldn't say is more real than an actual sitcom, but it seemed as if you asked certain people involved with the show at that time, that did kind of see what their mindset was. That Homer was a guy who had to worry about his job and had to worry about money. I mean, the Christmas special, one of the first actual full episodes of The Simpsons, was Homer not being able to have enough money to pay for this and pay for that. I think that's why people look at it as the golden age of The Simpsons, is that, yes, you do have very funny episodes, but... And you can, of course, have that rubber band reality where Homer can try to jump a gorge on a skateboard but yet fall. And it's like, okay, we can push it because it's a cartoon. But seeing as if they try to have some genuine heart, or they try to have some genuine continuity, they try to have some type of, either I want to say balance, or in a way I want to say cement. I know this doesn't make sense, but I say cement where when it gets there, it stays there, it doesn't go further, can't go further. But then when you get to season 9 and you're doing this story where, well, we pulled the wool over your faces and over your eyes, we put, haha, we fooled you for 9 years, this character that you followed and gave actual fucking flashbacks to, and one time was, I think it was Marge's sister, and oh, well, he was alive the whole time. I think people felt shafted. They felt like, what the fuck? Like, where did this come from? It felt like desperate writing. It felt like a desperate story that you pulled out of your ass because you're running out of ideas. It felt like, well, if they can do this, then what can be done in the future? I think that's one of the reasons why people were a bit pissed about it, because they said, whoa, shit, well, if they can do this out of the blue, what else can they do? What other story can they tell? And then be like, whoop, never mind. Just didn't happen. Oh, no, next week it'll all be normal again. I think for some viewers, they felt that sense of, oh, this really is a beacon, maybe not a beacon of hope, but a beacon, you know, shining on the idea. Sorry about that, still dealing with this stupid sickness. A beacon shining on this idea of things are not going to be the same, as in, you don't see a lot crazier, wilder, jump the shark moments where they could do anything we want. We could have Homer be dumber and dumber and dumber, and he can lose 85 jobs, and he never even goes into work again, and we could do anything and everything because we've been on for 30 some years, and we gotta do something. Hey, what's new? What's reference that? I think a lot of people would say The Simpsons did not need to be on for over 30 years. It's funny, I did a video about, does anyone watch The Simpsons? And a few people commented and said they still do. But you never hear anyone talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't hear a lot of people talk about, oh, that the new season of The Simpsons. You never hear anything marketing-wise. You never hear anything news-wise. Like, people look on the movie websites and news all the time. When was the last time you saw something that said something about The Simpsons? And that's what I mean, like, I did guarantee you, fucking guarantee you, I could talk to people, they'd be like, The Simpsons is still on? But there was a point where it was a phenomenon. But when you keep going over and over and over and over, season after season after season, again, it's like, they gotta try to find what kind of story, and then just to a point where they're just retelling stories over and over and over again. It's like, well, how much more can you know about the characters? Well, you change this up, you change this up. So now there is no continuity. I mean, it makes sense. It's over 30 years, but Bart and Lisa are still the same age. And these tears, it's that catch-22 that if you just watch it and you don't care about that, you just want to see 20 minutes, hopefully you get some laughs. But I think at this time, people looked at the show as more than that. They looked at it as more of just sit down, hopefully get a couple jokes, you laugh, and leave. I think there were a lot of people who looked at the show as a genuine show where they want to follow the lives of the characters and they want to follow what happens with these characters, as well as look at it as hopefully a funny sitcom. How you could have a simple story, but then there could be real consequences and some heart. Like when Lisa had the teacher voice, but Dustin Hoffman, and says, "You are Lisa Simpson." That seems like something that could happen in real life. And you can mix in with stuff that will probably happen in just a cartoon, but it seemed like they didn't ever want to go too far. But then you get to a point where Homer is in outer space. And I even like that episode when he's an astronaut in space. So it's one of those catch-22s that if you gotta keep going, do you want to set those boundaries for yourself? Or you gotta knock them down so you could go to more locations, more different types of stories. It's a tough decision. Like I said, some people would say that you could have ended it season 9, season 10, and maybe the show would be looked at as much more fond of a program than it is nowadays. This is one of those things, which one do you do? Do you keep telling stories and keep people at work, still having jobs, but it dilutes itself, and there's only so long that a program dilutes itself to the point it just, take anything, take whatever drink you like, you keep diluting it, there's going to be a point where there's no taste, and you go, I might as well just be drinking water. Here with The Simpsons, I don't know if people ever really watch that program and realize, like younger people, if younger people watch The Simpsons, I'm not sure if they will ever realize just how, at one point, how big, how gigantic, how revolutionary. People forget when The Simpsons came out, they said, wow, this is such the opposite of, say, The Cosby Show. And now it was the renegade cartoon, it was the renegade TV show. And now it's kind of the opposite. In the beginning it was sort of the rebel fighting the cause, and now it's become part of the program, part of the the suit and tie sellout. And it's one of those things that, to be perfectly honest, with a show like this, I grew up with the show quite a few years. I watched many of the seasons of the show. I liked many of the episodes. And even an episode like this, which I didn't care for, because I just didn't really find anything that made me laugh. I thought the story was kind of lame. And it's just like, okay, so all the stuff of flashbacks he had in Vietnam, a lot of that was bullshit. And then at the end, people are like, let's just forget about this. So then it makes the episode completely pointless as well. Like, literally, it makes the episode completely pointless. Because in the episode, you yourself even said, we're not going to talk about this anymore, we're not going to mention this anymore, so there's not even going to be any to it. So it really does equate pointless. And I just didn't think it was clever. I didn't think it was smart writing. It just seemed like it took the audience as a fool. You were a fool for believing this for 9 years. Now, in truthfulness, that's not what the writers intended, but that's what I think a lot of people felt. And so, people who did follow the show for 9 years and did enjoy it as a show that was a counter program to, say, the Cosby Show and such, you know, that you deal with cartoon logic of Homer, like I said, try to skate over a gorge, or them dealing with the monorail, but wait, this character people follow through, their backstory is completely pointless. And it's like, you take me to you call me a fool one too many times, sayonara. Now, another part of Jordan's question for this request was, do I think this was because a lot of people, a lot of fans said this was the starting point of the fall of The Simpsons. And that this is the worst episode ever. I don't know if I can go that far. It's hard for me to say, like, what the worst episode ever, because even an episode like this that I didn't care for, it's still only 20-some minutes. The animation on The Simpsons is fairly good. You still have really nice voice work by Dan Castellaneta, and Julie Kavner, and Nancy Cartwright, Harry Shearer. And I've seen a lot of bad movies. I mean, I just saw Creepshow 3 again for review. So, you know, a brisk 20-minute cartoon like this after fucking Creepshow 3 is still not that bad. But at the same time, can I say it was an enjoyable episode? Not really. It was very forgettable in a weird way. There's any attempts at jokes I don't remember. It just didn't elicit many laughs. So I would say the poorest part of it is that it just wasn't a funny episode. I mean, as for an episode that to me was the changing of the show, I would say the 2 episodes that kind of made me go, oh, yeah. The times they are changing. It's 2 episodes that are actually kind of have gotten good reviews. Homer the Enemy and Behind the Laughter. Those, I would say, are 2 of my least favorite episodes, because they really, for different reasons. Homer the Enemy is the episode where you have this guy named Frank Grimes, which he's a bit uptight, but he's still trying to do the best that he can. And Homer, granted, he's being nice, but it's what they call jerk-ass Homer. That even when he's being nice, he's being a fucking jerk, and just unlikable. And granted, he's like, hey, Grimy, like, he's being nice, but he's doing all this stuff purposely, just causing things so much worse and worse, to the point that this Frank Grimes guy gets killed, and there's a funeral, and then Homer's snoring, and people are laughing, oh, Homer, and they're laughing while this guy is being put into the ground. And it just made me go, wow, I really don't like these characters. You know, this is a show that did have a special episode, like when Homer meets his mom and then she leaves again and Homer's on top of the hood of the car staring up at the stars during the end credits, and this beautiful music, to me one of the most beautiful parts of the show. So you have a Homer that and the feelings of that, but then you have this, and it's just, I prefer that over this jerk ass Homer. And that's the thing, is that Homer will do stuff that you just go, Homer of season 1 would never do that, number one. Like, if you watch Homer of season 1, season 2, is a very different Homer than Homer the enemy and a Homer of today. Because they just made him at times more of a jerk, or he doesn't realize it. That's the thing of jerk-ass Homer. He's not purposely being mean and rude. He's just, oh, whatever. He says something, he doesn't realize how much of a jerk he is. Thus, jerk-ass Homer. And I didn't really care for that. It just seemed like we gotta have some drama and Homer's dumb, so do that. Which is funny because Homer's my favorite character. I didn't like the direction they took that in, though. And Behind the Laughter, which is hailed as like one of the best episodes, to me, I hate that episode because what it did was it was a one-shot episode, granted. And granted, I could look at it like a Treehouse of Horror episode. Because Treehouse of Horror, obviously, they don't follow through because it's people getting killed and all this crazy shit happening. But because maybe that's done on a yearly basis, it kind of helps the repetition. Okay, that's the one-offs, and then we're back to the show. A regularly scheduled program if I learn how to talk. I need hooked on phonics. But Behind the Laughter just, oh, well, this was a TV show all along, and it really broke the bubble for me on The Simpsons. I mean, yeah, you're not supposed to take it seriously, of course, and non-canonical and all that stuff. It's non-canon. But on the flip side, it made me go, well, now anytime I see the show, it makes me think of this episode where, oh, they were from Kentucky or whatever, and they're just actors playing a show, and this is not how they really act, and then the stuff they kind of made fun of that The Simpsons will do next, they did. So I don't know if it's like back in their mind they knew the show would get worse and go into more crazier situations, and some of the jokes they made became reality when you get up to over 30 fucking seasons. But I don't know, Behind the Laughter just really just supposed to be like behind the music. But I just really did not like that breaking the fourth wall. This is just a show, guys, with these cartoon characters. And the cartoon characters are actually actors. That one especially rubbed me the wrong way, and I just really disliked it. And for me, that was the beginning of the end of the show, of the golden age. I forget what season that was, but I would say, I would not pit the Principal and the Pauper. I would pit Behind the Laughter. Again, I know I'm alone in that because that's hailed as one of the best episodes, but to me, that's when it's like, okay, you really can't do anything. You just do a one-off where, again, the Halloween shows, to me, that's different for me. That's different. And even when those began, the Treehouse of Horror, usually began with, okay, they don't tell these stories around it's Halloween, so they don't tell these stories, and then you show the stories. They kind of stopped doing that after a while. But when Treehouse of Horror began, it began with the characters telling the stories, so you're still with the reality, and then you have these stories that you do anything, it's because the story's being told by the characters. And that's what I mean with the difference. They actually went to the effort of doing that. But now it's like, nah, fuck it. Just have... we don't need to do that. I'm like, are you sure? But yeah, Behind the Laughter is the one that bugged me the most. That and Homer the Enemy. But the Principal of the Pauper, just, I don't think it was that witty of an episode. I don't think it was that creative of an episode. It just felt like, despite what Tim Taylor wants to say, it felt as if we don't have anything more interesting to detail about Stanner, so just say he was a fake. He was a fraud, and you thought it was him for 9 years. Aren't you a fool? Well, even Matt Groening, the creator of the show, hated the episode. So, and I think Matt Groening, I don't know anything about Matt Groening. It seems like every week you hear about stuff of people, and so I never know what's true, what's not, because I don't have the proof. We like proof. But with the show itself, is that a show I follow anymore? To be fair, I haven't seen probably the last 10 seasons of the show, so for all I know, maybe it is still a decent show, to be fair. Maybe it is a show that still works on multiple levels. But it seems like a bit well, maybe I wouldn't word it that way, but I was going to say a concession to all this is, if you love The Simpsons and you like anything about it, you have a lot of material to watch. And that's why I stopped. When they stopped the DVDs, I was pissed. But then when they started off again, I'm like, wait a minute, why the fuck am I going to keep buying them? They're never going to end. And by the time, the show will never end. And you're never going to have all of them on DVD, Blu-ray anyway. You really think they're going to have all 30-some seasons? Maybe they'll get to 40, I don't know. On DVD, Blu-ray? No, they're not. Because they don't want it on their digital platform. So then I'm like, why the fuck am I keep buying these? There's no point to it. So, part of me thinks they should have made a movie earlier, not and a different plot, because I didn't like the Simpsons movie. Because I honestly think it was too late. Obviously I'm alone because it made a shitload of money. A lot of people liked it. That's cool. But I can only speak for myself. To me, the Simpsons movie was made too late because they had done too many episodes. We have seen one too many times of Homer being a jerk and saying it's over, and then they get back together again, and it's like, no, I don't. When you do it 85 fucking times, it's just hard to buy it anymore. It's kind of like wrestling. It's amazing when a guy jumps off the top of the cage, but when you see it every week, you're like, eh. That's why you only do that once in a blue moon, not every week. When you, it's like your favorite food. You like your favorite food, but if you eat your favorite food every day, you don't get tired of it. It's not special anymore. It's like the phrase, how can I miss you if you never go? That goes with The Simpsons. How can we ever miss The Simpsons? How can we ever be fond of The Simpsons? And oh man, I remember that show. When you never fucking go. You never fucking leave. You've never left. Oh, it's still on. And that's kind of reaction today with people, The Simpsons. So with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.